Okay, well, welcome. Welcome to the first Planetarians Zoom seminar of 2020, our January seminar. Today we have Emily Peavy, who is giving us a presentation and leading a discussion on perceived education and entertainment value in live and pre-recorded planetarium programs. So Emily, take it away.
Oh, okay. So hello, everybody. I'm Emily Peavy, and I'm presenting with you my master's work. I just finished a master's in education based upon my work here at Imiloa Astronomy Center. And I've only spoken about this a few times, and every time I've spoken about it, I've gone long, and I've never even finished like what I'm saying about it. So I'm trying not to make this go super, super long. And if you guys have further questions about it and want to talk about it more with me, I'm super happy to talk about it more. But I'm going to go ahead and screen share so that you guys can see my slides. And we'll just send. And I want to make sure that I have the chat open. So if anybody has a question, I do have the chat open. I'm going to find a way so it's easy for me to see. So topic of my research was live and pre-recorded planetarium programs and comparing education and entertainment value. And so this is what the audience is saying, oh, how well they found it educational and how they found it entertaining. And used it as my master's work in June 2019. And so introduction, I just want to go over some of the way that I'm defining certain terms. And an important thing that I want to be bringing up is the definition of free choice learning. And so this is a break away from how we normally say informal learning experiences, instead switching to free choice learning experiences. That terminology puts a little bit more of the emphasis on the fact that our patrons are people who are choosing to come to our experiences in order to learn from us or things. So there's a reason why they are coming to us, certain factors of their identity for that day, why they're coming to us for this learning experience, and that terminology is focusing a bit more on that. And then in it, I'm kind of discussing two different things. We're thinking about the balance of education and entertainment in these types of environments. Because these people are choosing to come to us, you do need a little bit of entertainment factor along with education. And there's also a debate of how education and entertainment work with each other, and how many people might think that they don't work together, that you can't have a show that's too entertaining because it's taking away from the educational component. And then a brief introduction of where this is. I work at Imiloa Astronomy Center. We are an astronomy center based in Hilo, Hawaii. We are offer free choice learning experiences where people can come to us and learn things. Planetarium, and our planetarium experience is kind of a centerpiece to our educational experience. And the second portion that I'm really studying is, and actually kind of the main portion, is thinking about live programming versus pre-recorded programming. Under this, I'm defining live programming as being there is no pre-recorded narration. The educator is controlling visuals in real time, controlling the entire experience. Our Imiloa program that was the focus for this study, that was the live program, is called Skies Above Hawaii. The pre-recorded program is one in which the main feature would be a full dome video that is entirely pre-recorded content. Our focus of study for this one was our program called Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky. And a note about this program when we get into the research that we're actually doing with it is this program is technically integrated. This means that the first half of the program is a pre-recorded program, a 20-minute pre-recorded movie, and then the program concludes with a secondary live experience. That is just a basic 10, 15-minute tour of the nighttime sky. So that's what I mean by integration. So my research questions, my primary research questions are: what are the audience-rated educational and entertainment dynamics of a live and a pre-recorded show? And then how do the live and pre-recorded programs compare in educational and entertainment dynamic? So how are our audiences rating these programs for education and entertainment, and then how do these programs relate to each other. And then just coming up with my research, just because I like to crunch data, came up with a bunch of other supplementary questions that we'll take a look at as well. So what are the average scores of, what's the average educational and entertainment score in the two programs? Comparing the scores across the programs, what are certain trends? And of the demographics that we collected with our surveys, which agreed and disagreed with different trends. And then what was considered educational and what was considered entertaining across the two programs. And then on top of that, because the pre-recorded program that was used in the study was integrated and had a live portion, could we pinpoint the audience's response if their response related more to the pre-recorded part or to the live portion. I was going to go over my literature a little bit because when I submitted this for publication in the Planetarian, I had to take out my entire literature review. I'm going to try to make it quicker though, sort of thing. And if anybody has questions involving my literature review, please let me know and talk story more about it. So I get the feeling we're all planetarian people, so I don't need to go over planetarium stuff too much. When I first did this presentation, it was all for people who maybe not have even stepped in a planetarium. So live program advantages is more of an interactive quality because you have a live person who's able to respond more back and forth with the audience. It's easier to encourage active and creative thinking, and you can even break away and have a potential for audience-driven discussion and content. And then pre-recorded program uses full advantage of the immersive space, and it's visually stimulating graphics. It's something that you can set up ahead of time, and you don't have to ever worry about it changing. And that goes into the consistent programming. You don't have to worry that, hey, I'm doing this presentation today, but tomorrow a different person's coming in and their presentation is going to be different. So it's on a organizational scale, pre-recorded programs have a certain advantage in that you don't have to worry about changes to programming. And then thinking about the education and entertainment portion of this research, education and entertainment often are being perceived as conflicting with each other. Education can often be connotated with importance, while entertainment is frivolous, doesn't really have substance. But these connotations might not necessarily be shared by the visitor. In the planetarium, education's primary goal in entertainment is associated with audience engagement as well. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this one, and that's identity motivators. And this goes back to the definition of a free choice learning environment, in that we are a space that people are choosing to come to an educational experience. This is all based off of work by John Falk at Oregon State University. And he's attaching to that moment when you are deciding to come to a free choice learning experience, that patron is going to be taking on identity while they're attending this experience. And that identity is going to affect what that person is going to be taking away from the experience as well, what they're actually going to be able to learn. And so John Falk has broken up people into 5 identity motivators for attending free choice learning experiences. And in this research, we use these identity motivators, and we use this research from John Falk as another form of demographic in order to be studying how these different identity motivations play into educational entertainment values that they're assigning to the live and pre-recorded programs. That got very complicated very fast. So but how these identifiers are broken up, and I think in future research it'd be really interesting to see spreading up to other places of the planetarium world. You have the explorers. Those are the people who are coming in, have a direct question, general interest in the content as well. Facilitators are socially motivated. Their enabling the experience of somebody else. Very common one of this is, oh, my kids need to be entertained for the day, let's go to the museum. And so the parent is there to facilitate the learning experience of the child. But experience seekers, which are completing a visitor checklist. So being in Hawaii, we get a lot of tourists, and this naturally falls into the experience seekers. It's the, oh, I'm in Hilo for the day, and I heard that this is a fun thing to do. I might not know anything much about the mission of it, but because it's a fun thing to do, I want to try it. People who are hobbyists already possess a very strong knowledge on that subject, and so their motivations might be a bit more directed to specific content. So you have the amateur astronomers. One common one that I hear about this is teachers who are approaching like their astronomy unit in school and want to learn a little bit more about what's coming up in astronomy now, and so now they are coming to the Astronomy Center in order to learn a few more things. And then the rechargers are those who are using the experience to escape from stress, seeking contemplative and restorative experience. So just like, I'm gonna go into the planetarium, listen to the nice music, listen to the nice voice, have this experience, and just calm down from like my stressful life. So setting is Imiloa Astronomy Center. We are a science and cultural educational center on Hawaii Island. And we have our mission statement here. It's our name, Imiloa, literally means seek far. It's used as a word both for explore and explorer. And through a Hawaiian lens, we explore our place in the genealogy of the universe, continually seek, learn, and adapt to our ever-evolving environment, inspires discovery and innovation. And then our planetarium is our planetarium, our innovative space with dome-shaped environment. So taking a look at our two programs, in comparing the study, we are comparing two programs that are content-wise, they are different from each other. They are taking on different contents, and they're also presenting these contents in different ways. I know there's not a lot of research out there studying live and pre-recorded programs, and I know there's discussion that best way in order to maybe compare these is if we had a program that was live and a program that was pre-recorded that had the exact same content presented in the same way. Unfortunately, that's not this research right here, but I think this research does still give us some interesting insights. So our live program, Skies Above Hawaii, plays daily at noon. It's the guidelines given to our presenters is a 20-minute night sky tour followed by a 20-minute flight through space. And the content is completely determined by the educator. And all of our educators who present this program have a background in astronomy. They are either have a degree, a bachelor's degree in astronomy, or they are currently working on a bachelor's degree in astronomy. And so we also don't give any of our presenters scripts. They have this rough guideline of half the program should be on the Earth looking at the sky tonight, and the other half of the program should be flying through space. And knowing our mission, knowing what our audience might be interested in, you get to determine the experience beyond that. And we do review these sort of thing, but there's no set scripts that we're making people follow. So our general topics, constellations, star lines, planets, stellar evolution, scale of the universe, anything that our science educators are interested in sharing. And the educator, especially me, I like to take questions like during the programs or things. I've been encouraging people like, hey, if you have a question, go ahead and shout out and engage with me throughout the program. Then we have Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky, which is the pre-recorded program. This program was created in 2006 when our center first opened. Its graphics are aging very quickly. But explores connections of Hawaiian culture and astronomy, starting with the Kumulipo, and it is trying to draw these connections between some Hawaiian cultural concepts and concepts in modern astronomy today. But is the seating capacity at Imiloa in our planetarium, it is 120. I was on the group chat. Talking about and then discussing the sacredness of Mauna Kea and Mauna Kea's use for astronomy. I always describe this program is it talks about the mountain Mauna Kea and its connection to Hawaiian culture and to astronomy. The overall tone of this full dome video is very conceptual. So it's not straight out stating a fact. It's kind of more warm and fuzzy of here are these general ideas of how these all things are connected, but there are very few facts that are explicitly stated. And then the entire program will include with a short live tour of that nighttime sky. And
Emily,
yes.
what is the relative, like you said that the time for the live program is it was 40 minutes. What about for the pre-recorded? What is the time, pre-recorded time duration?
So it's still about 40 minutes, and we always say our programs are 45 minutes total. That's 5 minutes plus or minus, like where we can be putting things in, especially on the live portion. So Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky, the actual video with credits is 23 minutes, and then we encourage our operators to do a 15-minute tour of the night sky.
Thanks.
Thank you. So this is the survey that was handed out. So as patrons were coming in for our different programs during the time period of the study, as we tore the person's ticket for entering the planetarium, we would hand them one of these surveys. The top portion of the survey is based upon their demographics, so age, gender, where they're visiting from, as well as which program they attended. And then the section below that, check the statement that best applies to your visit to Imiloa Astronomy Center today. These are all statements that are applying to the identity motivators of the free choice learning research. So there's 10 statements. Each of the 5 identity motivators has 2 statements that relate to it in order to test how these different motivators are coming in. That's a very, very fascinating research, and I can write a whole nother paper on that. But I keep reminding myself of my focus. So afterwards, after the program, we asked people to rate on a 1 to 7 Likert scale how they would rate the educational value of the program and the entertainment value of the program. And then we had the modifiers for each of the statements: 7 extremely, 6 very, etc. And at the very bottom, we ask to expand on it. What is something that you learned from the program, and what is something that you found entertaining about the program? We collected data from about mid-June 2018, ending in January 2019. And total of, I should know these numbers off the top of my head, I believe we had a total of about 400 surveys collected. That results into only a slightly less than 20% return rate. So on average, only about a fifth of the audience returned it. So, but we were giving it to every single audience member as much as possible.
That's actually a pretty good return rate.
Thank you. I was not sure about that. No, Carrie with Live Interactive Planetarium Symposium, she asked me about that, and I was like, I feel like it's not the most. But based off of that demographic data, so this is our results of who is coming to our programs and who is filling out our survey. So for gender, we had a slight majority of women attending and filling out the survey than men. For that one, I really think it's more the filling out the survey that I think our audience is a little bit more split 50-50, but just the women are the ones who ended up filling out the program. A big thing for us, for our own interest here at Imiloa Astronomy Center, and I think does reflect who is attending our program, is a majority of our attendants are from the US mainland or international. We aren't only getting like about a fifth of the people from our island itself, from our own local community. Age ranges for it, no significant outlier of who ended up being any particular age sort of thing. We had a pretty decent spread. The only one that's very, very low is 1 to 10, but that's because they're very young kids sort of thing, so they're not filling out a bunch of surveys. We also had to throw out that data later on. And then the breakups for the identity motivators, the reason why I didn't make this one into a pie chart is because many of the people who filled out the survey, they would check more than one box for the identity motivators. So that, because you might not only apply to one statement, or you might not only reply to one identity motivator. So their data was put into any identity motivator that they checked for. But a majority of our attendants did end up checking that they were an explorer. One thought I have on that is the very first statement on the survey is, I love learning about new things about the universe in Hawaii. And that was like the first box that you saw when you're checking the survey. And so I think that was one of the reasons why we ended up having so many explorers. So if I did this research again, I would maybe hide that option elsewhere on the survey and then see if we get as many explorers. 14% facilitators, 22% were experience seekers, hobbyists, rechargers, and then just 7% left that section blank. Oh, and I was wrong before. I should have waited to my other chart. So we had 629 surveys received between June 2018 and January 2019. And that's approximately 20% of distributed surveys. So now I believe we are getting into some definitions before we get into the number crunching. Education, entertainment, dynamic. For that, I mean how the person rated the education score and how they rated the entertainment score. And then the other measure we're looking at is the average educational score and average entertainment score for the whole program. And then analyzing the open-ended responses. To analyze the open-ended responses, we coded them across 2 categories, and then we're broken up into 4 subcategories. The 2 categories were content related and then experience related. So content related definitely related a bit more to the question of what did you learn from the program? And so it's like, okay, did the answer relate to general science information, a specific science fact, general cultural information, or a specific cultural fact? And then experience related, more often than not, that ended up being the what did you find entertaining? A big one is, for this research, is whether or not the presenter was mentioned, as in so-and-so did a great job, I really liked their jokes, or something like that. Visual, sound, or just talking about the general experience. Now we get to graphs. Here we go. This is a very, very pretty graph that doesn't make much sense, but I love it anyway. I think it makes a lot of sense. So this is comparing the 2 different types of programs, of live programs, Skies Above Hawaii, and pre-recorded program, and taking a look at their educational and entertainment dynamics. So this is a very strange graph, but what the main takeaway I want from this graph is, in the live program, you can see that almost a quarter of all of our responses from the live program rated the program as extremely educational and extremely entertaining. So the highest score on the Likert scale. And 18% rated it very educational, very entertaining, the second highest score. But if you look at the pre-recorded program, for the pre-recorded program, only about 20% rated it extremely educational, extremely entertaining, and 20% exactly rated it as very educational, very entertaining. So the live program got more of the highest scores on our Likert scale, while the pre-recorded program was more evenly split. And as you can see, on our pre-recorded program, we had a lot more variety of how people were rating the program. Okay. That makes sense? Ish, enough. And so now, it does? Okay. I love that. I fell in love with that graph and I never wanted to throw it away, but it's not the best graph, and I admit that. Okay, so now we're looking at these scores that if we average all of the scores that are given on this Likert scale and how these scores relate to each other. So when we're averaging all of the scores, they all landed somewhere between 5 and 6 on this Likert scale, which 5 is, okay, it was quite educational, quite entertaining, or 6, very educational, very entertaining. And the highest of all these scores, our live program, Skies Above Hawaii, had the highest score. Its educational value had the highest score in this average scaling. The entertainment score for the live program is the second, then live program, pre-recorded program, third, and then the lowest upon this scale is the entertainment of the pre-recorded program. So observing some trends, we have our live education is greater than the live entertainment. The pre-recorded education is greater than, which is less, yeah, you can see it on there, greater. And then for both programs, the educational value was always rated higher than the entertainment value. And then the live education is greater than the pre-recorded education, and the live entertainment is greater than the pre-recorded entertainment. So these are just some trends that, as we look at demographics, we're going to take a look at which demographics are agreeing or disagreeing with these trends. And
all of those are quite high, though.
Sorry?
All of those seem to be quite high, and they're way up there.
Yeah, we're splitting hairs a little bit. So let me go back. There we go. So it's so no one is walking. So it does mean that in general, people aren't walking away like hating our experience on large scales, which is good. But as we're taking a look at which ones are being considered more educational, more entertaining, which ones are going to be standing out the most to each of them.
All right.
Okay. And so what was considered educational and what was considered entertaining across the two programs? So the live program, what was considered, to the question, what did you learn from the program? About half of all of our responses mentioned a specific science fact. And this makes a lot of sense because you have that live presenter who's presenting a lot of very direct science facts to the audience. For the pre-recorded program, so what did you learn from the program was a lot more of, oh, sorry, went forward one slide. There it goes. Oh, there we go. We still had a majority of specific science facts, a lot more cultural information. That's because our pre-recorded program, Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky, it's a little bit more cultural, has a bit more context in that. But as we're comparing these across the two programs, the one that really stands out is the question, what did you find entertaining about the two programs? And for the live program, the presenter was mentioned in about a third of all of our survey responses. And then for what did you find entertaining for the pre-recorded program, there's not all one outlier. Presenters mentioned, and do keep note that the presenter is only there in the second portion of the program. They're not there for the entire program. And so now we're taking a look at the demographics. So if you can remember that that score of the average Likert scales of the educational and entertainment programs, or scales, and just remembering those general trends, we can see which demographics are agreeing or disagreeing with these trends. Men and women mostly will follow that nice slope coming down. Looking at the identity motivators, we're getting a little bit different types of things happening. For explorers, they're definitely looking more for educational experiences, so they might be rating this educational score a bit higher. Facilitator, similar sort of thing. Rechargers just loved everything, just because they want to sit back and relax with the experience. So they're just happy with everything that's going on. And more of our demographics. And the one demographic, 50 to 60-year-olds really love Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky. I don't know why. It was like the only one that like just jumps up like that, and I don't have an explanation for it, or just there's some people that just are coming in, 50, 60-year-old just really love that Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky. Move on. So going for Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky, as I mentioned, it is an integrated program. So we took a look at the open responses in order to see if their responses applied more to the live star tour or to the pre-recorded content. And so for the question of what did you learn from the program, most of the answers were applying more to the live star tour, which concluded the program. And then what did you find entertaining about the program? It was like pretty 50-50, and many answers can connect to either part of the program. Do keep in mind that in our return rate, not everybody is answering the open responses. And for the Mauna Kea between Earth and Sky, for that second question, that is where we got the least amount of responses. So we don't, out of all the data that we have, the second question of what did you find entertaining about the program for Mauna Kea between Earth and Sky, that's where we got the least amount of data out of our 600 surveys, just because people weren't filling out that question. But noting the what did you learn about the program, the answer relates a lot more to the Live Star Tour. I think this does reflect that people might not take away as much from a pre-recorded program that's very passive and educational style, that you're just sitting there listening to an experience. You might get more from a live experience because it's engaging. At the same time, this program that we studied, because it's so conceptual, you might not immediately think of a fact that you learned. So the show's not saying, this exoplanet was discovered in this year. It's not explicitly stating a fact. So when you get the question, what did you learn from the program? You aren't really writing down explicitly a fact about it. So that's an indication of why it might be like that, but I think it also does say something about live programming to begin with. I'm going to skip this and we'll come back to it later. This is talking about halfway through the study, we put an operation station at the front of Imiloa, at the front of our planetarium. So our operators, for the first half of this study, our operators had to present from the back, from behind audiences. And then for the second half, operators had the option to be presenting from the front of the planetarium, being in front of the audiences. This is talking about how those scores differed based off of if the person was in the back or in the front across the two programs. I'll come back to that later if people have questions, because I think that was big. I definitely want to make sure I have time for discussion, and I'm already going long. So thinking about live versus pre-recorded planetarium programs, education and entertainment dynamics, the live program's most popular score was 7.7, a perfect score, while the pre-recorded's most popular score was 6.6. The pre-recorded program also received a greater variety of lesser scores that indicate that patrons were conflicted about how to rate it. And then the average education scores and entertainment scores trends 1, 3, and 4. So this is indicating that overall our live planetarium programming is found to be more educational and more entertaining than the pre-recorded planetarium program that was studied. And then thinking about education and entertainment dynamic. So 55% of all participants would give the same score to the educational value and to the entertainment value. You can use that to argue that for them, educational entertainment components are equally essential components of the entire experience. You could also argue that a person filling out a survey just real quick just goes, boop, boop, same numbers, might not be thinking about it that much. But I do think that with our audiences, they're not splitting hairs about education and entertainment, and they need entertainment for engagement in order to be learning something educationally. 31% of the participants rated the experience as more educational, 14% rated their program as more entertaining than educational. So very low are rating it more entertaining than educational. I'd be very interested in seeing, like, if I tried this survey with like a Led Zeppelin crowd, what would they think? So what is entertainment in free choice learning? So using open-ended responses, we consider what the audience is considered entertaining. 28% of the responses for what did you find entertaining related to, sorry, I'm like reading my slides because I haven't presented the content of the program. Learning plays an entertainment role. And so how do visitors think of entertainment in free choice learning? Some agree with DOT 2019 in that entertainment correlates to engagement. And I'm glad I did this. So I'm pulling some quotes from our from the open response parts of our surveys, sort of thing. So time went very fast. It was entertaining. Better yet, it held the attention. So an attraction to engagement. And then the presentation kept my attention. Although some people care, like other researchers have carried negative connotations of entertainment in this education space. So, I was entertained, but my intent to visit was not for entertainment. And this was a big one that I still ahead is like, would have preferred less entertainment, that it felt geared towards children. So the concept of, if I'm entertaining you, if I'm engaging you, then the program is being targeted towards children because I have to fight for engagement of children. There's a whole discussion there. It's interesting. Some limitations for future studies. These two programs do not represent all of their styles. So Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky does not represent every single pre-recorded program. It was created in 2006. It's aging very rapidly, and its representation of concepts is not ideal. Many people who work here, who work with these topics, aren't in big favor of how Mauna Kea Between Earth and Sky even presents some topics. And then Skies Above Hawaii operates with no set script. And I know many live programs out there require presenters in order to be following a script. And it's typically hosted by people with astronomy and Hawaiian cultural backgrounds. There's a lot of freedom to the program. I also know many other live programs out there are interacting with people that you're teaching a person with a communication or drama background, a science script, and then they're going from there. Our people, we take people who have astronomy backgrounds and then we teach them how to talk, and so that they're able to be a little bit more flexible with our program. Future research, more investigation with different planetarium programs, and if it holds true with different types of live and pre-recorded programs. Further study into the role of identity motivators in the planetarium setting, and study on perception of audience of education and entertainment in this context. What is educational? What does entertainment mean in these settings? Some references, some acknowledgements to some great people. And so that went a bit fast, but it's been a while since I looked over a lot of my research, but I'd be happy to take any questions and talk more about this.
Well, thank you, Emily. I think this would be appropriate right now for everybody to unmute and give a round of applause, actually. It was a really nice presentation.
Well, thank you.
It's very good. I'm going to stop the recording.